Well, hello everybody. Happy Monday. And welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. I hope you all had a fabulous weekend. I sure did. It was actually very warm this weekend. I spent time on the beach. It's warm here today. We're in for another cold front, so you're going to be hearing me complain again soon. But welcome to Monday. Hello, Morné, and hello, beautiful BRICE.
Hello.
And how is everybody? I hope you all had a good weekend.
Fantastic weekend. It was
Fantastic.
awesome. I was telling you and Morning offline, I apologize for me getting bopped off on Wednesday with our Sophia code. And it was so funny because we were just talking about you losing power. And apparently a dump truck hit a power line, but it was like a major hit because it took out a freeway too. So so I apologize that I got kicked off on Wednesday. Hopefully that won't happen again. For once, it wasn't the construction workers. For once, it was not the workers.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we're all online today. Now that my power's back. Geez, we're back onto like hectic load shedding again these last few days. I think we're on 4, 6, 8 hours a day. 422. Crazy.
Are
So
people
yeah.
That's a lot.
revolting? Are people like protesting this in South Africa? Because I just don't see how do people get their work done
No,
without
they're
having
used to it
together?
by now. It's like
Yeah, we've been having
fine.
it for a long time, we kind of, please, protest against the ANC. Are you joking?
Useless.
Yeah. No, but their own people protest against them. Definitely, the youngsters definitely do the protesting. But yeah, it's really we kind of you got to make do. You kind of get your UPS, whatever, inverter, gas, generators, whatever. Yeah, of course, the government makes tons of money on that. But it's all good. We will figure our way through this, no doubt.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I will say it was when I lost the power basically all day Wednesday after because it was early in the day for me, and so we ended up. It was so hot that we took our dog over to Georgia Tech, which is a big university just kind of a few blocks away from us, and they have a big fountain. And so we took Robbie down there to let Robbie sit in the water because it was so hot, and of course the air conditioning's not on with the power out. And that day was a wash for me because I couldn't do any work without the internet, and it was kind of nice actually. It was kind of
yeah,
like you can kind of find the beauty in it of just being out in the beautiful day, sitting at the fountain with our dog. Just very when you can't do there's nothing you can do, you kind of surrender, and it becomes kind of there is some beauty in it as well. And
Yeah.
I think that's the trick, right? That transmutation
totally.
is to
I
find the
mean, I've often spoken about that. It would really also, in my opinion, be times where families have candlelit dinners again, or they go for picnics, where you spend that time connecting. But obviously, we do live in a modern day world. So and especially now in winter, it's been a brutal winter. A lot of people can't afford anything other than what they have. They've got kids. Um, so they're completely at the mercy of ESCOM. So yeah, I mean, it can go always. A lot of people have gotten off the grid and getting off the grid.
right.
That's kind of like a way that people are going as well. So yeah, I think it's definitely allowing for people to make those kind of decisions as well. There's always, with everything, I just look at this movie, this Sound of Freedom movie that came out, and there's such a hoo-ha about it, and people are saying, yes, it's good, and this and that's happening. On the other side saying, no, they cabal, making money for this. And yeah, and I mean, I read something as well that it's kind of as well in many ways to get people scared so they can microchip their kids. Are your kids safe? Come for a microchip. I've seen an advert. Um, but the bottom line is that things like this can go two ways, which is why I don't like to give them much energy, right or left. I'll put stuff out there and I'll see what response I get. And people are saying, "Are you mad? Don't watch the movie. They're making so much money." And others say, "You must go and watch. You got to see what's going on." And now again, division and fighting about the movie, right? My opinion is very simply, um, it can go either way, just like anything can go either way. But there's certainly going to be that percentage of people that will wake up, you know. So God is always at work. We've got to remember that, you know. People see the devil in everything. I see God in everything.
Absolutely. Well, you have to remember too. Again, I'll say it. Darkness cannot create anything. Only the light can. So, regardless of who created this movie, there's still light there. There's still creation there that absolutely can help other people understand what's really going on that maybe have been resistant to it. And I will say too, I feel like at this point, I was listening to a really great podcast the other day with one of the survivors of Waco, one of the guys that was with the Branch Davidians when the Waco incident happened back in the 90s. And at the end of the podcast, he said something very interesting. He said, which I agree with, he said, I'm waiting for another Waco incident to happen because both sides of the political aisle have become so radical that there is no wiggle room. And that's, I think, what I think, you know, we got to go back to this place of being very grounded and being kind of moderate again. But both sides, on one side, you've got them mutilating children. The other side has gotten so crazy where everything's a conspiracy theory, you know, and so there's this like dichotomy happening, and it's just it's both sides are so radical that it's up to the individual to, as Shanti said, who knows if the guys who made this movie are good or not. We really don't know what happens behind closed doors, but the point is it is based on a true story, and it can help when certain people start to wake up, and that's a positive thing.
And there's a whole big thing about Tim Ballard, you know, and him being as dodgy as what they come. Now I don't know, you know, I'm not saying he is or he isn't, but what I do know, since the movie, a lot of his dirty washing has been aired. So I've definitely noticed that on Twitter. So if the movie is actually airing the dirty washing of the people involved,
Well,
then it's mission accomplished, you know. And the thing
exactly.
is, we've just got to be discerning. We've got to really understand that no one really has our best interest at heart.
Right.
None of these players have our interest at heart. According to them, we are vermin, not even cattle, we are vermin. So they use us to test and do whatever they want to, because really at the end of the day, we're not that, which is what they're trying to steal from us to begin with, but they will act as if we are, because that's what gives them their sense of power over us. So the only thing that we can do is we can reclaim what is rightfully ours, our spirit, our consciousness, our love, our divine right to be here, and we elevate through that, because that's really going to be the thing that at the end of the day separates who's who in the zoo.
We have a great oh, go ahead, sorry, Morné.
I just want to say, like, we know now with the last few years, all their plans have been backfiring on their faces. So all their pandemics, everything they were trying to do, everything they were trying to push is backfiring right now. And people are waking up. So is this another one that's going to backfire? People are going to wake up.
Right.
No matter what their intentions is, no matter how much money they want to gather, it's going to backfire. I just have a feeling it's going to backfire. And I've seen it as well. People need to wake up about child trafficking. I mean, it's been so hard. We've been talking about it for how many years? And still so many people don't want to wake up about it. So maybe like a movie like that could just wake some people up, and that's going to backfire in their face, because that's going to rise our energies. I feel it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I know that the media has taken it too far, calling this a movie for the number 17, and even people who don't know number 17 are like, wait a minute, human trafficking is not a conspiracy. Like, this is not a right-wing or left-wing issue. It's a human issue. It's a global issue. So that's already backfiring. And there's a great saying, I'm sure it's not just an American saying, I'm sure it's a global saying, where we say, take everything with a grain of salt. And so I say that about like Tim Ballard or any of these characters that you see coming across your screen. You know, I know Shanti, Morné, and we've had our fair share of conspiracies created about us, and none of them are true. So you have to always take everything with a grain of salt, and let the facts speak for themselves. When actual evidence comes out, let that be your barometer. You know, don't cling to there is such thing as junk conspiracy. there is such thing as false narratives and disinformation that's put out there in order to confuse people. And so with that being said, as Shanti just said, discernment is the best thing. And sometimes you have to sit back. My boyfriend's really good at that. He's really good. He's been awake since 9/11. So he's really good. He's fallen for junk conspiracy in the past. So at this point, he's learned from it. He's gotten wisdom from that. He's able to just kind of sit back and let's see what happens. Let the chips fall. You don't need to react right away. Just observe and see what happens. We do know from the law of one and the Cassiopeans that the bad guys, for lack of a better word, are going to be able to accomplish about 80% of what they plan to accomplish before this is all over. And if that's what needs to happen in order for people to snap out of it, then okay, God's got it. You know, as Shanti said, God is everywhere. My teacher used to say that in India, everywhere looking, God seeing. Everywhere looking, God seeing. And know that there is a divine plan. So absolutely. And you know, I have not seen the movie yet because I really, frankly, just don't want to go to a movie theater.
Yes, well, I'm not going to say it on live TV, but you don't need to support them financially. There's other ways, you know, you can watch the movie. Just be patient. It will be available soon. If you want to.
I just listen. When I was a kid, like when we were growing up, you guys, all three of us and most of our people watching, when we were growing up, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have direct on-demand TV. So going to the movies was fun because you got to meet up with your friends. You got to get snacks that you never got to eat at home. And it was like $20. Now going to the movies is like $100 with parking, the ticket price, you know, the air. It's so
it's expensive right now. Even here in Africa, well, where I live, it's like more than triple how much it used to cost to go to the movies. So.
I would rather spend that money on us doing something else, like driving up, using it for gas money to the North Georgia mountains to go hiking. Like I'd rather and then watch the movie because we already know, right? We already know what's going on. There's not going to be any spoilers for us in this movie. We know what's going on. So I'm going to wait for it to come out, on the internet, so I can just watch.
Hopefully,
on Netflix.
So I don't have to wear a bra.
Netflix doesn't want to play it. Netflix refused the movie, actually.
Interesting. Well, I know Disney bought the studio. What Tamara had said, Disney bought the studio that was going to put it out, and that's why it was delayed by 5 years. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Disney didn't want to play the movie. Yes, they didn't want to create it. They got the rights, but then they
didn't want to air it. So that's interesting. But yeah, if I can just sit at home and not wear a bra and watch a movie, that's way better for me. So anyway, but I would love to hear if our audience members have seen the movie, what their thoughts are on it, because, you know, just to see what other people's opinions are on the movie. So, but yeah, we're on number 10, tablet 10, guys. We are flying through these tablets. And I was telling Morné before we signed on, in a couple of, I'm really excited about an upcoming tablet and a couple of tablets that looks really interesting. So, should we review a little bit about, because tablet 9 last week, it was the key of space, and this is the key of time, tablet 10. And I know I've said this before. I think I said it last week. This is something that I think is a concept. I don't think I'm alone in saying that this is kind of a hard concept for a mortal brain to try to wrap its head around, literally. And he's going to talk a little bit about that in the key of time. Because in our minds as human beings, in these bodies with this brain in our skulls, that's the function of problem solving, the organ of problem solving. We live in a very linear world, right? There's a beginning, middle, and end. There's a birth, a life, a death. It is very hard, I think, for the human brain to process the concept of time not really being real. And the best I can say about that is that, you know, there's a saying, time flies when you're having fun. So there's that idea of your consciousness kind of controlling this idea of time anyway, or when something is really boring, like watching paint dry boring, time feels like it slows down, right? Like when you have those long car rides, you're like, oh my God, I feel like we've just been in this car for 5 hours and we've got 10 more hours left. And, you know, it's so in that respect, as the person, that's kind of a good kind of internal understanding of the creation of time. Now, I can't remember. In third density, we're either time-space or space-time. But when we flip...
Time-space.
And then we flip
Time-space.
Time. Yeah. We flip into fourth density, will be space-time. And so this means that all of your quote-unquote past lives and your quote unquote future lives are all happening simultaneously. Everything is happening, even though your awareness is in this life right now that you're aware of. You might have remembrances of a past. It's actually simultaneously happening in this concept of time, which I think if you rest, I think we spoke about this last week. If you rest in like your soul and your own inner knowing, it makes a little bit more sense if you try not to overthink it. But anyway, I just wanted to make that kind of clear. And I kind of liked that Thoth divided them and did one tablet as one and one tablet as the other, instead of trying to merge them as the same tablet. And again, a lot of what I actually talked to Mr. Fox, I really want Mr. Fox to read the Emerald Tablets, because a lot of what Thoth is saying does mirror the Law of One. So anyway, should we get started in the Key of Time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what Thoth has to say first, then we'll look at Doriel. List, O man, take of my wisdom. Learn of the deep, hidden mysteries of space. Learn of thought that grew in the abyss. Bring order and harmony in space. And so one thing, because I've already read this, one thing I'm going to bring up here that I thought was very interesting. Do you guys remember a few tablets ago, he said, you really can't understand life unless you know death? Like that's without. So the same concept is going to come with time, because there's thought, there became time. Because there was a consciousness that was created out of the matter, all of a sudden that consciousness started to organize experiences, basically. So time is nothing but an experience for consciousness. Know ye, O man, that all exists know ye, O man, that all exists has being only because of the law. Know ye the law, and ye shall be free. Never be bound by the fetters of night. Far through strange spaces I have journeyed into the depths of the abyss of time, learning strange and yet stranger mysteries, until in the end all was revealed. Know ye that mystery is only mystery when knowledge is unknown to man. I love that. Know ye that mystery is only mystery when it is knowledge that is unknown to man. He's going to say the same thing about magic later on. That when you don't know, when you don't understand something, you think it's magic. And my thought is that magic and spirituality and science have always been the same thing. Only recently they tried to divide them.
Connected, yeah.
It definitely is. But if you think about it, what we consider to be magic is really because we've been disconnected from our magic. So what is magic? Magic is really your birthright. Mm-hmm. If we look at what miracles and magic, I don't say it's exactly the same thing, but to me, they on a similar frequency, right? So if you look at the miracles and magic that Jesus created, it's purely because he was in alignment with God. Right. And only because he was in alignment with the true source of love, creation, life, whatever you want to call it. So he was able to be the body. His body was advanced enough. He'd lived enough lives on this earth to understand that his body was advanced enough to be able to carry that information. So that is available to all of us. So when we are in alignment with Christ, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, whatever you call it, you too. And that's what Jesus kept saying. You too can create that. So when we've been cut off from that, like we have been on earth, right? And we think we're these insipid little creatures walking around that is prey to everyone else. And it's like unplugging a plug, right? And walking around without having any power or force go through you. So the minute you plug back in and you go, whoa, hang on, this is who I am, So you get that kind of, and that's the difference. So then we rediscover the true essence of our nature, which is that miracles are our birthright, which means that magic is the order of the day. It doesn't mean when we're looking at dark elements, when they've inverted the energy, they have to manipulate it to suit them. That's the magic, right? We talk about that's the magic, that the witchcraft or whatever you want to talk about. But when you're in alignment with Christ or the Holy Spirit, you are able, just through being there and just through the person you're working with being willing, very important. The person you work with needs to be willing and believing and deserve and feel like and believe that they deserve and are worthy, right? For them also on some level, or just be open to receive and believe that they are going to be healed, right? It's available to everyone. Everyone just, if you tap into that energy, it's available. It's nothing magic. There's no miracle. It's only since we've been disconnected from those aspects of ourselves that now suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, it's a miracle.
Well, and that's what he's going to say. That's why he, when you get deeper into this tablet and you understand magic, he's saying magic is the same thing. What you call magic is just something you don't understand. And all these tablets have been labeled as the magic of this or the magic of that. That's what you are. And that's what that is the knowledge he's trying to remind you of. And it's so true. We look at when Jesus walked on water. What is that? That's levitation, right? That's levitation. And if you look back at old photographs from early, whenever photography was first around and the white people were in India studying, there's pictures of yogis levitating. There's stories of people being in the Himalayas where it's freezing and snowy and they come across a yoga person with just a loincloth on and they're totally fine because they've understood that they control that consciousness. They control the nervous system in that respect.
It's like fire walking as well, right?
Yeah.
And also, when we look at Jesus walking on water, what that is symbolic of as well is that he's mastered the element of water.
Yeah.
He had mastered the element of water.
Yeah.
Which is emotion.
Yeah.
So, when you tuned into your emotion, and we know that energy moves 4 times faster through water than what it does through air, then you're able to perceive, translate, receive 4 times faster than let's not say who. I'm just trying to think of sitting somewhere that is completely oblivious to any force that exists outside of his own needs right now. Big difference. The complete inversion.
Well, all this information for those who are watching, and most of our audience, you guys are super cool, but there's the same teachings existed. I was thinking about this morning when I was practicing, how amazing is it that the yoga, the Emerald tablets, the teachings of Yeshua, these are all telling you the same thing. It's all saying the same thing. It's that you are it. You're it. You are your own savior. You are this fractal of God. And this whole dichotomy of dark and light, good, that's just friction that's giving you a spark, literally and figuratively, to remember that, to shake you, to jolt you awake, right? You are the storm. You are the lightning in a bottle. And so therefore, none of this information should seem that, even though you don't remember it, it's not foreign to you. Your soul actually knows this. And so understand you are that magic. You are you are the reason why you watching right now, the person watching this YouTube right now, whether you're with us every single Monday or you're just tuning in for the first time, I'm talking to you. You are why Thoth wrote the Emerald Tablets. That's how you are. That's how special you are. He wrote this for you to remember that you are special. And that this magic isn't separate from you. There's no Houdini that's bippity boppity booing around the world that's separate from you. You can do it. What's that? There's one verse in the Bible I really love where he says you can have faith as small as a mustard seed. Just a little bit of that knowledge is what's going to catapult you into it. It doesn't have to be a total understanding, but just a little bit of an understanding is what's going to start to catapult you in the right direction. So I'll read that verse again. Far through strange spaces have I journeyed into the depths of the abyss of time, learning stranger and yet stranger mysteries until in the end all was revealed. Know ye that mystery is only mystery when knowledge is unknown to man. When ye have plumbed the heart of all mystery, knowledge and wisdom surely will be thine. So when you lean into it, when you start to challenge your limited belief systems, right? Because we do limit ourselves with our beliefs, start to challenge that, and you start to look at your own blind spots and move into what you thought was just creating magic, and you realize it's not, it's something you possess, right? So yes, seek ye and learn that time is the secret, whereby ye may be free of this space. Long have I sought wisdom, I, and shall seek to eternity's end. For know that ever before me receding shall move the goal I seek to attain. Even the lords of cycles, so the chakras, we've talked about that, know that not yet they have reached that goal. For with all their wisdom, they know that the truth ever grows. So the Castiel say this too. Knowledge is infinite. Knowledge never ends.
Yeah, it keeps on moving. Keeps on moving.
It keeps on moving forward, that knowledge. And how great is that? Because how boring. We're stuck with these souls for eternity. Forever.
So we better keep it interesting.
we gotta keep pushing it up. Like, how boring would it be? Like, that's what he was saying. Like, thank God in a past tablet, thank God we got these bodies. Thank God we have mortality, because only with that do you know you're alive, right? So thank God that we have these. There's no finish line, right? There's no finish line. Once in a past, I spoke to the dweller, asked of the mysteries of time and space, asked him the question that surged in my saying, "O master, what is time?" Then spoke he, the master, "Know ye all thought, know ye, O thought, in the beginning there was a void, a nothingness, a timeless, spaceless nothingness. And into the nothingness came a thought, purposeful, all-pervading, and it filled the void. There existed no matter, only force, a movement, a vortex or vibration of the purposeful thought that filled the void." So again, that consciousness started to create. There was a force. There was no matter. There were no planets. There were no bodies. There were no houses. It was a force.
It's the seed of thought. That's where I think, when we look at creation, we look at thought being the seed, which is the masculine, the head. If we look at it, so the masculine, or the seed of thought, was created through that desire, right? A desire to grow, a desire to recreate, a desire to become more of itself.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when we just look at the whole creation process, of course, in that takes place within the womb, the womb, a womb of consciousness, right? And then, of course, we see that as the masculine, feminine, or father, mother, if you will. And then how does that manifest physically? Because as above, so below would be the masculine, obviously, when he's procreating, has a desire to become more of himself, right? And the feminine has the same desire to co-create. So she then creates the womb in which the growth on the physical level takes place. So, yeah.
That goes into the Shiva and the Shakti, which is the Shiva is the soul, the Shakti is the body or the expression of the soul. Shiva is the masculine, Shakti is the feminine, the creation is the feminine. And we see this in the Yoga Sutras. It's the same thing Thoth is saying here, like, even though your soul's eternal, even though the soul is really what's real, the body is just the experience in that moment. They work together in a tango. They have to work together to understand one another. The experience of thought, the force of thought, that seed that's planted in the womb that starts to then create the dance of the masculine and the feminine, is that experience that refines that consciousness. Because otherwise, to sit in an abyss, a nothingness, like, how freaking boring would that be? Like, there's no creation there, right? So there has to be, anyway, it's very profound. And I question the master, saying, was this thought eternal? Now, this is fascinating, because he talks about the word eternal. And answered me the dweller, saying, in the beginning, there was eternal thought. And for thought to be eternal, time must exist. So even eternal means that there is no, it's forever, it's never ending.
Yeah, it's not linear, though.
In order for us to understand eternal meaning never ending,
yeah,
time has to exist for us to know what ending even means.
Yeah,
That's two there, right? As my teacher Philadelphia used to say, David Grieg, it's the unsolvable riddle. They need each other, right? They need each other. So I'll read that again. The dweller said, in the beginning there was eternal thought. And for thought to be eternal, time must exist. So into all-pervading thought grew the law of time. Time which exists through all space, floating with a smooth, rhythmic movement that is eternally in a state of fixation. Time changes not, but all things change in time. That's fascinating. Time never changes.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
You see, that for me is, it's like it so is what it is. Let's say consciousness just is what it is. It's has no beginning, has no end. It, as you say, moves into the experience, symbiotic experience, if you will, of itself, chooses to create itself, recreate itself, grow through itself, So, but in order to understand itself on every level, it has to exist in a linear fashion as well, which is why we're existing in the linear fashion in third dimension, and probably I would imagine must have been first and second too, right?
Yeah,
so
we're everywhere.
Yeah, but we're getting to understand, although I don't think many of us can wrap our heads around what full consciousness truly is. We can maybe get an inkling of it and have an imagination of what it could be. And I think for me, that's enough. I don't have to understand consciousness. It has no relevance in my life right now, other than what I understand and how it works with me in my belief system.
Yeah.
So, but I think, so it's in its true essence, it's not linear.
No.
It is everything, right? It is this myriad of frequencies, right? That just, but in third dimension, it is linear for us to be able to understand it. So I think it's important to understand why time is linear and what we need to learn through it, but also let that teach us as we understand more and more about time-space reality. Before moving into space-time reality, we need to understand time-space. So that it is, it's flexible, right? It's flexible, it's movable. Yeah, it's movable.
You're the one moving it, because as he's saying, time changes not, but all things change in time. Time changes not, but all things change in time. For time is the force that holds events separate, each in its proper place. Time is not motion, but you are moving through time. You're the motion.
It is what it is. It's like law of attraction. It is what it is. There's no emotion around it. No, law of attraction doesn't say, okay, I'm sorry you had a bad day. Let me give you your heart's desire. It's okay. Come surrender. It's no, if you're not aligned or whatever you're aligned with, it is what it is, right? Yeah. It's like money. Money is not emotional. Money is energy. Its job is to be a means of transaction. Right? So money is unemotional. Doesn't say, oh, okay, I'll come to you today just because I feel sorry for you. No. Same thing with time. Time is there. It is there. And yes, it's like almost like looking at maybe in my mind, we can compartmentalize it as in the whole, like think about like a bee and a honeycomb. Like there would be compartments of time, if that makes sense. On a much greater scale. And part of that and part of those compartments of time is linear time.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he's saying. I mean, it's so profound, this. The time is not, but all things change in time. Time is the force that holds separate, each in its proper place. Time is not in motion, but ye are moving through time as your conscious moves from one event to another. So you think about it like you think back at if you compartmentalize your, and even Ayurvedic medicine compartmentalizes this. Like when you're a child, you're when you're from puberty to, for women, menopause, whatever that is for men, that's your pitta. And then once you go into that, you're in vata. They're different stages of life. And you think back to your childhood. So I'm 40 years old. I can look back to the 80s and the 90s, my childhood. But at this moment in time, I'm 40. But my nephew is 10. My niece is 9 and my other niece is 2. They're in their childhood, but it's the same time that's not changing. It's the motion of force and understanding in that time. Just because I'm 40 in this time, that hasn't changed. My 10-year-old nephew doesn't have the same understanding because he's in a different, separate placeholder of his experience within this template of time.
And if you haven't understood, like, let's say, and that's why I think it's, just thinking about what we're saying here, it's like, well, often people find it difficult to let go of past experiences, childhood, whether it's conscious life or past life experiences, right? Because we're all kind of still working with the same kind of consciousness as we're moving through this time. It's like, there's time, and there you are, moving through time. So wherever you're getting stuck, in whatever time zone you're getting stuck, if you will, that would be something, you know what I'm saying? Like, past experiences, I think, can be very good. What keeps us stuck in the past can be very good for showing us what we let go, what we need to let go of in order to move. Because if we look at jumping timelines as well, okay, now I know that also the Luciferians do a lot of, they call them the time ghost, zeitgeist, time ghost, where they literally have jump timelines and try and change events. You see, what I do believe this is for us, we get to jump timelines like when we heal past experiences. So in other words, the perception around that past experience changes from that time capsule, if you will. Then you move to another timeline.
Yep.
Okay. So the evolutionary process continues. So it's not about changing the past physically. Not even God can do that. But you can change your perception around the past, which then releases 100%. You from that capsule and enables you to elevate 7 time zones.
Isn't that what he's literally been saying this whole time? Do your shadow work so you can create. Because I'm thinking about, as you're explaining this template, Chantelle, I'm thinking about, so he's talking about you're the force and you're this force going this way. But if your mind is stuck on something that happened back here, it's like a broken record. We call that a samskara in yoga. It's like you're in this rut where you're trying to go this way, but you're being pulled back. So it's a constant rut. And you're not going anywhere. You're just spinning a tailspin, right? And you're getting older, but you're still, and I totally agree with that, because once you change your perspective on something that happened to you, you then become liberated to release that bondage, as he said in past templates or past tablets, to then move forward with the force of the experience. It's like karma. Karma is neither good nor bad. Karma has no, it's just cause and effect. That's all karma.
And it will be trapped in your time capsule.
Yeah.
Your karma will be trapped in certain time capsules. So whether it's past life or past relationship, if you haven't processed that time capsule that's held you hostage, then you're not going to get very far. You got to come back and release that in order for you to elevate onto a different time zone, which is not, and I think that's where we got it. We think another lifetime, right? And this is where it comes in, because we think we've got to go die and come back and die and come back. But then we start getting clever and realizing we actually, and this is where where the Ankh comes in, the resurrection, right? So the resurrection of your consciousness, where you don't need to lose your body anymore. You then do what Jesus did, okay, what Jesus was showing us, resurrect full body, full consciousness into another time line.
Another experience. Yeah, it's It's brilliant. For me, when I first started to really, and I've said this for a very long time, that I think the Western world especially is very confused about what karma really is. And when you start to look at it in that perspective, it changes, it's just cause and effect. And so when you start to look at it that way, when you, like I've said it before, the fact that I woke up this morning, did my practice and took a shower, the karma of that is that the cause and the effect of that is now I can sit on the camera with you guys and not look like a hot mess because I took a shower, right? It's just cause and effect. You drink water, what's going to happen? There's different karma. You're going to be hydrated, but you're also going to have to pee in like an hour, right? Like that's just cause and effect, right? If you're
I just want to say something, because for me, time is very easy because I'm a physics freak. I love physics and mathematics and art. For me, time is a position in space. That's what it is. It's a position in space.
Mm-hmm.
So like Shanti said with the beehives, it makes sense. That's how it's all created. And it's not just linear. It's like up and down. There's lots of positions in space where you've already made all the decisions in your life. And now you can choose where do you want to experience yourself right now. So you can either choose to experience yourself in this decision that you made, or you can experience yourself in this decision that you made. But all is available, and you have availability to all of them. So you can either sit and meditate, and you can learn from a place in a position in time what you're experiencing. You can either learn from it or go to it, then you have to physically learn from it. But you don't always need to go physically to that position in time, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It's all energetic. Yeah, it's all energetic. We spirit before we physical.
Exactly.
So when you go, life is spiritual. We got to, so when you access the spiritual alignment with yourself, you are able to access those times consciously, not necessarily physically, and able to release it.
Yeah,
right.
Because
then
that releases,
as well as physically, eventually,
yeah,
as well.
But then physically, let's say it's holding something hostage in your body, like you've got an illness or something based on that, it then releases the illness as well. So that's how self-healing occurs.
Yeah.
So physically, yes, but that's all. So it is in this whole time-space continuum that we are understanding how it works. That nothing we're really experiencing is real. What is reality? It's just a moment in time.
I see ourselves as time jumpers the whole time. We're jumping in times the whole time. You can either be a 50-year-old feeling like a 30-year-old, or you can be a 30-year-old feeling like a 50-year-old, wherever you're jumping.
Oh, I mean, and that's the big thing, like what we've been saying. So we've talked about what the Luciferians try to do with their timeline jumping, but again, it goes back to what Thoth has been saying. You're the timeline jumper, and you hold that power. It is up to you what you want to do. That's why their density is the density of choice. Do you want to hold on to that past and keep getting stuck in that rut, or do you want to release it so you can take a different trajectory? It's all in your hands. Nobody else is controlling this but you in your own life, right? And so how freaking powerful is that? And I look back now, speaking of time doesn't change, but you change in time, and even the collective conscious, which is one of the karma. You're dealing with 3 karmas in your existence. Collective karma, so that everything we're all going through together at the same time. Your family's karma, so inherited karma. You're also dealing with your own personal, so in this life and past lives. All right, so collectively, I've told this story before. There was one night we were going back and rewatching a lot of old unsolved mysteries from like the 80s. And one of these unsolved mysteries was about a bank robbery that happened in like 1986 or something. And the victim was a 40-year-old woman. This actress that was playing this 40-year-old woman looked like she was 80. She was very matronly, had a pearl necklace on, a purse. But I'm 40 now. So we, in our collective consciousness, we've shifted the idea of even youth, that youth is lasting longer for us now because we've made that choice to make that happen through our own conscious effort. So that's again another example of how we collectively have timeline shifted, right? I hope that makes sense. But it's fascinating. This stuff is so, and I agree with you, Morné. Things like physics, even though I did well in physics. I'm not a science math person at all, but I did really well in physics, and I did really well in geometry because it was shapes.
Yeah, especially theatrical, thinking about beyond physics.
Abstract, yeah.
Not just the potions and stuff like that. I don't like the potions. It's like,
no.
Where does it
go? I come from a family of doctors. My mom's family, they're the BRICEs. That's where I get my name from. I had a chemistry teacher in high school say to me, because I was asking all these questions because I never really understood chemistry, and he was like, aren't you a BRICE? Like, isn't everybody in your family a doctor? And I was like, yes. And he was like, so why don't you understand this? I was like, I don't know. Good question. Anyway, but physics and geometry were my favorite maths and sciences because it's fascinating and it's abstract. And I think that's why I liked it. It's abstract, but it just gives more of a multi-layered purpose to our existence. And it very much fits in with the spiritual. So I'm going to read that again, you guys, because this is powerful. Time changes not, but all things change in time. For time is the force that holds events separate, each in its proper place. Time is not in motion, but ye move through time as your consciousness moves from one event to another. By time ye exist, all in all, an eternal one exists. So because of time, you exist in a body. And that body and that spirit is part of the one eternal. Know ye that even though in time ye are separate, yet ye are still one in all times existent. So even though we're in this illusion of separateness by time and by our physical bodies, we are experiencing everything he's saying at the same time, and we are part of that one in all existence. Ceased in the voice of the dweller, and departed I to ponder on time. For I knew that in these words lay wisdom and a way to explore the mysteries of time. I want to mention something here. Is he said, departed I to ponder on time. So that's something really important. I just want to bring up in any spiritual practice. You don't have to understand things right away. There's always an integrating process that needs to happen in any type of spiritual discipline. So if you're sitting here watching this right now going, holy shit, I don't understand. It's okay. Just ponder on it. Let it integrate into your psyche. Oft did I ponder the words of the dweller. Then sought I to solve the mystery of time. Found I that time moves through strange angles. Yet only by curves could I hope to obtain the key that would give me access to the time space. Found I that only moving upward, and yet again, by moving rightward, I could be free of the movement of this time. So he's talked about the angles again, the angles and the curves. And that to me also represents what we do in the yoga practice with asana, because we know there's different vayus, there's different pathways that represent different patterns, as above, so below. So like the pyramids, for example, we have that same template in our own physical body. So that's also as above, the macro and the micro, within the time of the existing experience of the Shakti, of the nature, there are angles and pathways to take. A lot of times in things like the yoga practice, part of what's happening is the changing of those patterns, because the body is the mind field. So when the mind starts to change its consciousness, the body will shift and change patterns as well to create new angles in time. So I just thought that was very, very interesting. Let's see here. Forth I came from out of my body, moved into movements that changed me in time. Strange were the sights I saw on my journeys, many the mysteries that opened to view. I saw a man's beginning, learned from the past that nothing is new.
So basically going out of your body, going to the past, learning about what you needed to learn, and then becoming new. So it's basically what Chantelle was speaking about, is going back, healing, looking at your past, your childhood, stuff like that, looking at it differently, healing it, and then suddenly your future is new, your now is new.
Yep.
Yeah, now you're on a different timeline.
Timeline jump. Yeah, you did a timeline jump, yes.
And you're the magician, you're the alchemist, you're the person who made that happen.
Exactly.
No white hat came in and bippity boppity booed that for you. No med bed came in and bippity boppity booed that for you. You are that. You are what you seek. You are that savior you seek. Seek ye, O man, to learn the pathway that leads through the space that are formed forth in time. Forget not, O man, with all thy seeking, the light is the goal ye shall seek to attain. Search ye ever for the light on thy pathway, and ever for thee the goal shall endure. So again, what Shanti was saying about going back and healing your shadow work, your wounds, what are you doing? When you go deep inside yourself and pull out that stuff you don't want to talk about because it hurts, but you can't get rid of it. When you pull that anger, that jealousy, that betrayal out, what are you doing? You're presenting it to the light. You're presenting it to the light. That's what you're doing. Let not thine heart turn ever to darkness. Let thine soul be, and sun on the way. Know ye that in the eternal brightness ye shall ever find thy soul hid in light. Never fettered by bondage to darkness, ever it shines forth a sun of the light. I know through the hidden darkness your soul, a spark of the true flame exists. So even in the darkness, that flame is existing. Be ye one with the greatest of all lights. Find the source, the end of thy goal. Light is life, for without the great light, nothing can ever exist. Bing, bing, bing. What have we been saying almost every week that the Cassiopeans tell us? The law of one tells us darkness cannot create anything. Only the light can create, right? Only the light can do the creating. The only thing darkness can do is try to mimic it or steal from it and invert it. That's it. So that's what he's saying here. Light is life. Light is life. For without the great light, nothing can ever exist. This is why the bad guys in our world try to take the purest among us, the ones with the brightest light, which are our little children and animals, and take from them. I'm going to be very careful, but you guys know how they take from them. Take from them because they cannot create that themselves. Or they've forgotten. I kind of like how Shanti says that they've forgotten that they can actually create that themselves, right? Because they're so in the dark, right? Know ye that in all formed matter, the heart of light always exists. I, even though bound in darkness, inherent light always exists. Once I stood in the halls of Amenti and heard the voice of the Lord of Amenti, saying in tones that rang through the silence, words of power, mighty and potent. Chanted they the songs of the cycles, the words that open the path to the beyond. I saw the great path opened and looked for an instant into the beyond. Saw I the movements of cycles, vast as the thoughts of the source could convey. So he's literally, like, how cool would that be to literally, it's almost like going to like a huge machine that's like creating, like you're seeing the creation. It's like going into the mind's eye and seeing all these thoughts creating that are coming from creating these new cycles, these thoughts. I mean, they say for us as human beings, what is it? 90% of our thoughts are subconscious and they're on a repetitive loop. We're not even aware of it. And those thoughts are creating, right? They're constantly creating. Yeah. So have you ever, like, I mean, for example, something very, very minor. You're hungry, but all of a sudden you start thinking about a food and all of a sudden you're hungry. You feel hunger pains. You're creating that reaction. That's the karma. You're the creator of that cause and effect. And that's just something very minor, very, doesn't matter. But now think about that on a bigger scale. Right? And isn't it true? Now, Sean Stone, who I've done a few videos with, Oliver Stone's son, the director, he talks about this in his series about the macro and the micro, and that directors of movies understand how to get the collective audience.
Oliver Stone,
Mm-hmm.
His son,
yeah.
You do know that Oliver Stone has been mentioned in Jesse Zabertar's affidavits.
Maybe his son is awesome. Sean is awesome. He's huge in this. He's done a lot of videos. He has a whole series of exposing Hollywood. He doesn't live in Hollywood.
His daddy was in on it. His daddy was one of the ones, according when we're looking at Jesse Zabertar's affidavits. Daddy-O was in on filming these atrocities.
Yeah, well, maybe his dad, but I don't think Sean is. I mean, he doesn't live in Hollywood anymore. He lives in Florida now. And he's got a great series where he talks about how directors can control consciousness.
He
and
would
that's
know.
what they're doing in the media.
He would know.
Yeah.
Because Daddy was in it. Isn't that interesting? Wow. I want to actually check more into that. Wow.
Yeah, look, Sean Stone's he's been kicked off of YouTube. He's got some great videos. I've done a couple videos with him. He's heavily studied Eastern philosophy. And so he has a series, and I watched the series where he talks about how directors of movies understand how to control consciousness. So if we're talking about how consciousness creates matter and creates timelines, we can see that in like mainstream media, how they create fear that creates a new reality for people, right? Let's talk about like the big virus that we dealt with a couple of years ago. What would happen if the government, and Billy Carson's talked about this, you want to stop this group? Just don't do what they say. Just say no. That's how you stop them. Why not? Like, if they had tried to lock us all down and collectively across the world, we said, gave them the middle finger, said, no, we're going to work tomorrow, there wouldn't have been one now. There wouldn't have been one. But they created that fear and that direction of following the rules that created a whole other situation for us, right? So it's the macro and the micro. If you understand that, and this is what the Luciferians understand. They understand how consciousness works, and that's why they try to control yours. But you can say no, and you can so you think about that collectively. I mean, Billy Carson, there's a great clip going around where he says, like, if we all just basically didn't go to work tomorrow, if everyone around the world said, I'm not going to work tomorrow, it would crush the cabal. The cabal would be done within an hour. Banks would everything would just shut down on our terms, right? So you control that. You control that. All right. Let me go back to this. Light is life, for without the great light, nothing can ever exist. Know ye that in all formed matter, the heart of light always exists. I, even though bound in darkness, inherent light always exists. Once I stood in the halls of Amente, heard I the voice of the Lord of Amente, saying in tones that rang in silence, words of power, mighty and potent. Chanted they the songs of cycles, the words that open the path to beyond. I saw the great path opened, and looked for an instant into the beyond. Saw I the movements of the cycles, vast as the thought of the source could convey. So again, those movements of cycles. Knew I then that even affinity is moving on some unthinkable end. Saw I that the cosmos is order, and part of the movement that expands to all space, a part of the order of orders, constantly moving in harmony of space. Saw I the wheeling of cycles, like vast circles across the sky. Knew I then that all has being, is growing to meet yet another being in a far-off grouping of space and of time. Knew I then that in words are power, to open the planes that are hidden from man. And even in the words lies the hidden key that will open above and below. Hark ye now, man, his word I leave with thee. Use it, and ye shall find the power in its sound. Say ye the word Zenuri, the power shall ye find. Ye understand that man is of light, and light is of man. List ye, O man, and hear a mystery, stranger than all that lies neath the sun. Know ye, O man, that all space is filled by the worlds within worlds, one within another, yet separate by the law. And how much time do we have left? Because that might be a good until next week.
Yeah, how much do we still have from you, Bryce?
We still got a few more pages left of this.
Okay, well then let's do next week. Is this the last tablet?
No, we've got a couple more after this.
Okay, no, cool. How many tablets are there, by the way?
So as far as what Doriel has, he has 11. There's some that are still missing, 12, 13. He has 13, and then he has some commentary of what he thinks might be missing from other tablets that we don't have yet.
Okay.
So we've got a couple supplementary. So basically all in all, we've got 15 to go through. So 5 more after we get through 10.
Cool. Well, then we shall look forward to more space-time, time-space discussions next week. Great. Okay, guys. Well, thank you, Bryce. And thank you, everybody, for joining us for another marvelous Monday. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Catch us tomorrow with Alice Parola, and then Jesse this week, Bryce again Wednesday. I think we're on Friday as well with Catherine.
Oh, yeah.
We'll just confirm that, yeah.
Yeah.
But we let you guys know. Okay. Take it easy, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye,
See you
everybody.
soon.